All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
Well, I love it when it rolls like that. Yeah, you know, it just, thank you. Thank you. There's nothing like a recorded ovation to bring me to my feet. Thank you, everyone. Mark here. Kim is alongside.
Kim, how are you?
And so is Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
We have David Cay Johnston joining us at the bottom of the hour. Very excited. I'm sorry, at the top of the next hour to kick off hour 2. We'll talk about any number of things. I do want to get into, I know we'll talk Epstein, and I will talk about the connections clearly being drawn between the Epstein International Syndicate of Human Trafficking and the Russians, potentially, as well as the Israelis. I think that was always sort of talked about as somehow Epstein was an agent of Mossad or in some way an asset of Mossad. We'll get to some of that. I also want to really talk about what's happening in Fulton County, because finally the rest of the world is having the conversation that we've been having on the show since the very beginning.
Why are you yelling?
What have we said from the very beginning? It's not about the last election. It's about the next election. Every time someone talks about the midterms, what do I say? I talk about the fact that I hope the midterms go off, but I think that while the elections can be held, and they will likely hold them, I understand that they're in the general election and even in the midterms, you can play the martial law card. They seem pretty well determined, this regime does, to kind of stir stuff up. And then once they stir it up, once they create the unrest, then they move in and say, see, there's way too much unrest here for us not to bring in troops, for us not to postpone an election, whatever it might be. So these are all things that, could happen. But the other thing that can happen is there are ways to manipulate an election, deny the results of an election, and I think the election result denying is their tried and true track. And so when we talk about the seizure of all of the materials in Fulton County, and I'll play you something from the Fulton County Commissioner in just a minute, I think you have to look at it in the context of the future election. They are not litigating the last one. But under the guise of that, they are moving ahead toward the future elections and ways in which they can manipulate the outcome, deny the outcome, affect the outcome to their desired ends. You already hear Trump talking about nationalizing the election. I mean, one of the things that has been a cornerstone of elections in this country is that they are state by state, county by county. Trump wants to nationalize it all. Let's give the federal government, let's give my mobster family at the federal level total control of the elections also. They already have total control of everything else. So
is that not spelled out in the Constitution that
sure,
states run the election?
Yeah, of course. But so is a separation of powers. So is the tariff and taxation policy. I mean, all of these things are spelled out. I mean, the Constitution is a quaint document that hangs on the wall now. It's not the document by which anything apparently is dictated toward governance. Might makes right in America right now, and Trump says, I'm the mightiest, I've got the power, all of my people will do what I want, let me show you. Tulsi Gabbard, Pete Hegseth, Scott Bessent, Christy Nome. I mean, these vacant, corrupt people who have no moral compass. You can't find one moral compass in any of them. Howard Lutnick, Doug Burgum, the Interior Secretary, can't wait to just strip America of all saleable, leasable land to extract whatever can possibly be extracted. But if you want corruption, I mean, you know, the corruptor in chief is pretty strong. I'll have some stuff on that as well. Anyway, we'll get into all of that as we go. Great to have everybody here. The other featured conversation today is with a very fun and really special person who I think is a monument to self-starting entrepreneurship. And it's a woman-owned business, small business, that has come on board this show as a partner. And Christy Grammer will join us, and she's part of Sweet 106 Bakery. She's the creator of Sweet 106 Bakery, but she's part of this wonderful group that she's put together, a group of colleagues that work with her to fulfill the orders for you and to really build what has become a truly enviable brand in her world, in this sort of small batch bakery world. So we'll get to that and you'll meet her. But her origin story, and she's won Cupcake Wars twice and all this stuff, but her origin story is wonderful. And I want you to hear it. And she'll visit us bottom of the hour. We have a poll up. Yes, we do. It is a flash poll.
It's a Mark Thompson show.
Like the
flash poll.
Was Epstein a kingpin or someone's asset? Was he an asset of the intelligence agencies? 15% of you thus far say that. He was part of an elite blackmail ring. 53% of you say that. Foreign interest, 29%. He acted alone, 13%. I think it clear, I don't want to influence the voting, that he was part of an elite blackmail ring, but also he did have ties to foreign intelligence agencies and foreign interests. So when you're choosing these, I guess you choose the one that you feel most represents what would likely be the majority of what he does. And I think the blackmail ring is real. If you look at the drafts of Jeffrey Epstein's, for example, emails with Bill Gates, there's a suggestion that this stuff could go public, you know, you needing an STD medicine of some kind. I mean, these kinds of things that existed as draft documents. What's that? Yeah. These, I think, represent a way in which he was blackmailing powerful people. Now, the question becomes, was he blackmailing powerful people on behalf of others or to extract financial gain for himself? Or was it just to build a network that he was able to maneuver through? I mean, he absolutely had a complex network of the most powerful people on earth. It was extraordinary, right? So what was going on there? The latest with Jeffrey Epstein, I want to get into. I feel like, you know, I always do this, Kim. I always kind of just back right into it. But
yeah,
before I get, can I just, I wanted to mention a couple of notable passings, and I also wanted to read an email. What should I do here, Kim?
We'll get into Epstein because I have a question that I want to ask you about that. But let's talk first about the passing of friend of the show, Chuck Negron.
Chuck Negron was a terrific rock and roller. He came up and was one of the lead singers in Three Dog Night. He has an amazing origin story of his own. He was a doo-wop singer on the corner in New York, I think it was. He was a basketball player out of his mind, great basketball player. And I think went to college on a basketball scholarship.
Oh, wow.
And then they put this band together. And as he told me, and you can watch the interview, we have it. Tony, did you post it what did we post in the chat, or you can find it on under this
I'll
video.
post it right now.
Yeah. During the conversation, he even says we were really like, we took songs that were out there and we reimagined them and performed them. Here's Chuck as a basketball player. Tony found it.
That's awesome.
I mean, he was a star basketball player.
Yeah.
And, the reason I mention that is, too, like, he was such an athlete. Maybe that's one of the reasons that he lasted so long, because he polluted his body with drugs beyond description. Of course, that's one of the chapters in Chuck Negron's remarkable story. But anyway, and by the way, it was literally a story in a book called Three Dog Nightmare, which is a great book written by a friend of mine, Chris Blatchford. And I think Chuck even added a bunch of stuff to Three Dog Nightmare after the original publication had been printed. Anyway, to the point, Three Dog Night exploded, and he was, the toast of the town. And not only that, they exploded with songs, as I was saying, that they discovered. They became, as he told us in this interview, kind of an A&R act. Like they were just sort of looking for songs that they could reimagine as Three Dog Night. So Joy to the World, One is the Loneliest Number. These are all songs that were out there written by other people, but Three Dog Night made them huge. And when he visited us, it was wonderful. And I just love Chuck Negron and his wife, Amy, and I grieve for her and the family. Do you have a little bit of Chuck visiting with us, Tony? I don't know. We don't know where this is. I guess this is at the beginning, but this is Chuck Negron visiting with us. I guess it was a couple of years
17 and 18 years old. I played Madison Square Garden 3 years in a row.
Wow.
That's championships as a kid from the Bronx. I mean, that's like the epitome. And then I played it 3 more times with Three Dog Nights. I'm probably the only musician the only person that's played Madison Square Garden as an athlete and a musician.
Oh, that's wild. I didn't ever got that part. He played as a basketball player, Madison Square Garden, and also as Three Dog Night. And the other thing I'll say, I know we got to move on. Three Dog Night was one of those bands that was cool. It wasn't just a pop band. It had a soulful element as well that kind of gave them the connection to people like Hendrix and others who were kind of the coolest rock and rollers. Three Dog Night was the real thing, and Chuck Negron as well. And then if you want to hear more about the drugs and you want to hear more about the world that dragged Chuck Negron down and ultimately cost him the role in Three Dog Night, and then, that broke apart Three Dog Night. You listen to the rest of that interview. It's on our channel. Yeah, love Three Dog Night. Eli's coming and celebrate. Exactly. And, thank you, Linda, for that. And that's an example of what I'm talking about. Eli's Coming was, I think, a Laura Nyro song. They redid it as Three Dog Night. And it just was spectacular. It was a great, and that's Chuck at the beginning of Eli's Coming, of course. Love Chuck Negron's voice and Three Dog Night. His biography is an excellent read. Amazing that he kicked heroin and emerged out of that hellhole. Rest in peace, says Rain. Yeah. In fact, he talks about how bad the drug abuse was and the drug addiction was. And if you listen to that interview, and I mean, I'm not trying to pitch the interview, please. If you're curious, though, it's on our channel. I don't care whether you watch it or not. But all I wanted to say is that Chuck speaks about how deep he fell. And I question him. Like, I think at one point he sold his home in Beverly Hills for, I want to say $33,000 or $70,000, some amazingly small amount, because he just wanted to score more drugs and he needed the money right away. It's an incredible story, but he came all the way back. And again, that brilliant voice, brilliant sense of humor, wonderful man, Chuck Negron, passes away at 83. And he was a friend of the show and a friend of mine and a wonderful guy. So thank you for helping me remember him, Chuck Negron. The other there's Amy, also his wife. The other notable passing is DeMond Wilson died, who was in Sanford and Son,
I really like that show.
Yeah, these are people that, we kind of grew up with. So they are a part of the culture. And Sanford and Son was a huge, huge hit. And he kind of played opposite Red Fox. He was only 79 years old. I say only. To me, that doesn't seem old. But he was, Fred Sanford is this kind of angry guy, Red Fox, and DeMont was sort of the calming influence, I guess. The way I never met him, but they were just they were sort of an odd couple that had an urban vibe, to say the least, and it was really quite special. Yeah. If there's time later, I'll tell you the Red Fox story. There's a famous Red Fox story. I'll tell you that story another time. But it was really funny, and they said a bunch of things you could never say today. I promise you that on that show. Rest in peace, Damon Wilson.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Thank you for being here. Yes, there are significant aspects to the Epstein files that are immensely disturbing, immensely revealing. The redactions in themselves kind of reveal something, right? The idea somehow that you've redacted the names of some of the perpetrators and some of the predators associated with Jeffrey Epstein's dirty network, but that accidentally there were victims' names released. It's pretty ugly, One of the things that seems clear is that there was a lot of money and a lot of trafficking of people that came out of Eastern Europe, Russia. And so increasingly, there is a suggestion that Epstein's links to Russia may be significant. Here's a report that sort of summarizes a Daily Mail report that I'll walk you through after you get this overview. Go ahead, Tony.
Look through it all for us, Alyssa.
Absolutely. And I want to start with this article by the British tabloid, the Daily Mail, that outlines a very specific theory, citing anonymous intelligence sources. And they are basically saying that Jeffrey Epstein was running, quote, the world's largest honey trap operation on behalf of the KGB. This is, of course, the Soviet spy agency. And according to these sources, Epstein was working on behalf of Moscow and possibly even Israel, we see here. And the sources also said that Epstein was introduced to that world of espionage by his father-in-law, Robert Maxwell, who was an alleged spy for Mossad and Russia. And another odd story that caught my eye is circulating widely in Serbian media, actually. That's because Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić said that we should expect a strike within 48 hours. That's after the release of the Epstein files. And he's saying that the two could be related and that the release of the Epstein files might be basically a way to distract us to US military strikes on Iran. And Vučić said, when such nonsense appears, like with Monica Lewinsky back in the day, someone usually gets bombed. And what Vučić is referring to is August and December 1998, when Bill Clinton's admissions on the Monica Lewinsky affair coincided with US strikes on Afghanistan, Sudan, and Iraq, Stuart.
So that's a wag the dog type scenario that she's describing at the end. And the beginning of her comments, which always sound better in a French accent, she talks about the fact that the Russian connection is now being suggested by both unnamed sources and a named source. The Prime Minister of Poland is saying that Jeffrey Epstein was likely a Russian spy. He said that he would establish a team to investigate any potential fallout in Poland from Epstein's crimes, in particular in relation to what he said was possible involvement by Russian secret services. As I say, what is clear, and I want to say, because it was sort of clear even prior to the Epstein file drop, there's a huge connection and trafficking of people out of Eastern Europe and Poland among the places that people were being traffic from it. And you can find that stuff in like Sarah Kendzior's writing, for example. But in any case, this this Polish prime minister said, more and more, this is a quote, more and more leads, more and more information, and more commentary in the global press all relate to the suspicion that this unprecedented pedophilia scandal was co-organized by, wait for it, Russian intelligence services. I don't need to tell you how serious the increasingly likely possibility that Russian intelligence services co-organized this operation. This can only mean that they also possess compromising materials against many leaders still active today, he said. So, look, there are ties to a lot of prominent people in this Epstein drop, in the Epstein file drop, but when you look at a possible connection to Vladimir Putin, I mean, he's named in the documents, in 1,056 documents, Russian President Vladimir Putin is named.
Wow.
And Moscow is mentioned close to 10,000 times, 9,629 times. So tell me why Putin is so prominently mentioned, as is Moscow, if there isn't some kind of connection there, maybe from an intelligence standpoint.
I have a question for you, and it's just something I've been thinking about. If this is a honeypot operation and a bribery operation, as is what it looks like, and all of these billionaires and well-connected people were getting caught up in it, why wouldn't they be warning each other? Like, stay away from that Epstein guy. He's gonna blackmail you. You're gonna get caught up in this.
I, first of all, think you don't do a lot of communicating about the fact that you're in the Epstein orbit in that way. You know what I mean? There's an embarrassment quotient, I would suggest, right? That might be the reason that there isn't as much talk about this. There also might have been communication of the sort that you're talking.
Yeah.
I don't know. He seemed to also have a lot of fairly, I don't want to say benign, but kind of irrelevant to the sex operation communications as well. I mean, he did want, it would seem, to extract finances and some sort of economic gain as a result of these relationships he had. But there was more than that going on. And it really did feel like a honeypot operation, a blackmail operation. Among the files here was a statement to the FBI made by a confidential source who claimed that Epstein was a wealth manager for Russian leader Vladimir Putin and former Zimbabwean president Robert Mugabe. The source, who was not named in the document marked secret and not for foreign nationals, said that Epstein was President Vladimir Putin's wealth manager and provided the same service for Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe. The FBI source also claimed that Epstein had dirt on other people and made his money from charging his clients fees to hide their money offshore. So, I mean, again, both things can be true. He can be blackmailing and also hiding money. Epstein also ran, quote, the world's largest honey trap operation on behalf of the KGB when he procured women for his network of associates, intelligence sources said. The sources say it could explain why Epstein appeared to enjoy an ultra-wealthy lifestyle out of kilter with his career as a financier, although there is no documentary evidence linking Putin and his spies directly to Epstein's illicit activities, they say here. But these same sources claim that while U.S. security services, quote, monitored Epstein's Russian connections for years, their UK equivalents were hesitant because of Epstein's connection to who? Prince Andrew. Well, he's not a prince anymore. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor.
Yeah, that was pulled from him. A lot of royals were caught up in this scandal. Prince Andrew's ex-wife said in one email I was reading, she said, why don't you just to Epstein marry me already?
Wow. Of course, the Epstein dump has a lot on Bill Gates. an email claiming that Bill Gates asked one of Epstein's advisors to provide medicine to treat sexually transmitted diseases because of sex with Russian girls. But I have to say, that felt as though it was in the category of blackmail. So, again, I don't mean to, I mean, there are more pictures and more things that give you the creeps when you look at this stuff and read it than you could possibly imagine. But it is the case that Epstein had ties to the world of espionage through Robert Maxwell with his ties to Mossad. But the idea somehow that that was the only association, given the strong back and forth between Epstein and Vladimir Putin, it seems weak. It has to be more than just Mossad. And this was an international human trafficking operation and an international blackmail operation. So the idea that it was supercharged by the connection to Putin, it seems quite believable. And the other thing that was interesting to me in the files, and I was reading this, and the files are a little funky to get around, but you can read them for yourself, and they're searchable. And I was searching all these keywords and trying to find things of one sort or another that I could relate to you and that I might find interesting myself. And one of the things was that Jeffrey Epstein was really close to flipping. His lawyers had a conversation with federal prosecutors on July 29th, 2019. So he was in New York in that cell, with the dude who was an ex-cop and had murdered 4 people. His roommate, who wasn't there that night, happened to be out that night that Jeffrey committed suicide. So Epstein's lawyers and prosecutors for the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District and the FBI discussed a potential resolution of the case if Epstein cooperated, and he was talking about cooperating with authorities. The document is titled Epstein Investigation Summary and Timeline, and there wasn't a specific proposal on the table, but it does suggest that Epstein was open to the idea, like, he's not going to sit there and rot in jail. He was going to flip, or at least cooperate in some way and flip enough to get him out of there. This is what I said at the time. This is a guy who's used to getting out of everything.
Yeah.
There's no way he took his own life. But 2 weeks later, a little less than 2 weeks later, all of a sudden he took his own life. Gosh. He was about to make that deal with federal prosecutors, and then the roommate's not in the cell, the surveillance video has a gap, and Epstein takes his own life. So that's a bit of an overview, but I think the connections are clear, and there was an awful lot at stake here. But from Epstein's point of view, he has all the cards. He knows all the names. He knows where all the bodies are buried, quite literally in some cases. And he could have made a deal that would incriminate many of the people who you now see redacted from the Epstein drop. For that reason, quite clearly, he didn't seem on track to take his own life. We'll talk more about this with David Cay Johnston, the Pulitzer Prize winner, at the top of the next hour.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Smash the like button if you would. It's a little thing we have to do on YouTube. It helps us when you smash the like button. And please subscribe to our show. It's something else you can do for free. And
Smash it with your iron rod.
Love things you can do for free, and that is one of them. And you can also share the show. That's something else you can do for free.
What?
So, I know. It's pretty amazing. You add it all up. There's a lot you can do for free, and you can help us out that way. I do want to mention that there is a magical person I want you to meet, and she is our new partner on this show, supports this show, helps us keep the lights on this show. the Sweet 106 Bakery people, if you don't know, this is like a religious experience when you taste their stuff. The small batch production of cookies and cupcakes and brownies, it absolutely is otherworldly. And her story, as I say, is quite special. So without any further delay, I want you to meet her, Christy Grammer.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Oh, I am excited, and you know why. I'm excited because I get to introduce you to a very special person, one of our partners here on The Mark Thompson Show, the two-time winner of Cupcake Wars, now the founder, owner of a small business that is really got a momentum going and a dynamic that's so exciting because the product is so amazing. So excited to welcome Christy Grammer to the show.
Thank you.
Hi, Christy.
Hi, thank you.
My other half, better half, Courtney, is with us, and Courtney is such a huge enthusiast for your wonderful baked goods as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Christy,
so
as an
much.
entrepreneur,
Yeah,
and
it's funny.
business owner.
I don't want to skip over that because you're a female entrepreneur in a world, I think, dominated by men, and it just sometimes can be a little tougher, to say the least. But the other thing I really like about your story, and I mentioned you're a two-time winner of Cupcake Wars and all this sort of thing, and you know Oprah discovered you and all of these things, but you've maintained a small business mindset and kind of a community mindset. And your business is born out of that world of community.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We, in our businesses, we hire single mothers, single fathers. We've had contracts with Le Cordon Bleu, the Art Institute, where we hire paid apprenticeships for students so they can get their on-hand training and their certifications. So everything is made from community. The community loves to gather and come into our shops when we had them. So yes.
Yeah, it really is something that you identified from the community, with the community. And tell me about Sweet 106, because the name Sweet 106, it's a suite, right? SUITE.
Yes.
Explain the origin story, because the origin story is really something special.
Yes. Well, it all started in 2007, and it was kind of like a passion project. I grew up in a small town called Country Club Hills, Illinois, which is right outside of Chicago in the Midwest. So in the 80s, early 90s, really nothing was there but a bunch of cornfields and a lot of imagination. So in my family, we had 4 sisters and brothers. I have an older sister, an older brother. I'm the middle, and I have a younger sister. So every day, our mom would make meals by hand from scratch. But on Sundays, she would make this really big Sunday dinner, and she would allow me to help. And that is the time she would also make one of her family favorites, desserts. So she would, bake something like coconut cake or peach cobbler or pecan pie. But my favorite was kolache cookies. She would make these homemade preserves, and we would roll this dough, which was made of simple ingredients like unbleached flour, sugar, cream cheese, and we would roll it in like a croissant type shape, and we would fill it with the preserves. And when it came out of the oven, she would lightly dust it with powdered sugar, and it would have the whole house fragrant and smelling like a bakery. You could actually smell our house from a block down. So that really was a memory and shaped Sweet 106. But years later, we moved to Southern California, and my parents started a family business, which consisted of real estate, insurance, investments, and we had an escrow company. So it was a really high-paced, high-volume company. And all of the kids, we all worked there so we could get our entrepreneurial skills. And my father, he would teach these financial courses, these seminars that would help our clients become financial literate. And because I love to bake, thanks to my mom, I would bake all of the refreshments. And specifically, I would bake cupcakes. So after a while, I had a lot of clients asking to purchase the cupcakes, so much so that I thought, you know what, let me start a side business. let me blog the journey. So back in the day, there was this blog spot, and you would blog everything from your wins, your fails, your ups and downs. And I decided to name the company Sweet 106, which was kind of like a play on words of sweet and sweet, but that's really where the journey began. And in that suite number is where our office was located. And back in the early 2000s, there was a lot of bakers. And I thought that name Sweet 106 would set me apart from everyone else. It was unique, it was true to me, and it was a fun play on words. So that is really where the name came from. So, basically, and, years later, I got a call from Food Network.
This is what I love. And this is at the beginning sort of this franchise that you were discovered by. Go ahead.
Yes, this was the beginning. So they said they saw my blog, which was shocking. And first I thought it was a prank. I thought someone was pranking me because how did you find my little old blog? Not doing anything but baking out of my kitchen. But they found it enough convincing. They asked if I can audition for a show called Cupcake Wars. It was a brand new show, and they wanted to see how it went. So I, of course, asked my sister, Rebecca, who is my business partner. We do everything together. We have all of our businesses together. And I asked her to audition with me, and we got on the show. So we went against some of the nation's best pastry chefs and bakers. And little old us baking inside of my home kitchen, we actually won that show.
Oh my God.
So that really put the company into the spotlight. So basically from there, we started 3 brick and mortar bakeries. We launched the first cupcake mobile food truck in Southern California, which actually my parents ran for the whole course of the time. They love to always help their kids, and this was something they always wanted to do. So they were on the truck, and the customers deemed them as Mama Lee and Papa Harry. So my daughter and I, Monet, we ran all of the stores. My sister and I ran everything from behind the scenes. It's really where all the magic happened. We had a 3,000 square foot bakery, and we did all of our events, all of our all the big baking was done there in our social media content.
I mean, you became discovered to the point that you were doing some pretty big events. I mean, and I know kind of celebrity spark to your stuff. I mean, it helps that your product is so good. I mean, what comes out of those kitchens, what comes out of those ovens is a remarkable thing. I mean, you have found the secret ingredients and the secret process that has vaulted you to this level. But anyway, go ahead. So you were beginning. You had at this point sort of upscaled the business.
Yes. So, we were kind of just, the show threw us into everything. We had no experience with retail. We were coming from the financial world. So, the whole family rallied around, and we were just thrown into it. So we just knew what we knew to do. That was build, and they will come, right? So we built these stores and this truck. And, 2 years later, Food Network asked us to come back to do a championship show with all the previous winners. So Rebecca and I went on that show. We won that, and that really catapulted the business to the next level. I mean, then, throughout the years, we catered the Emmys, the Grammys, Courtney knows the MTV Awards. We had the celebrity clients. We had Justin Bieber come in, Kobe Bryant, rest in peace. We had Brad Pitt, George Clooney, just so much going on. And that year, my sister Rebecca and I won the Entrepreneur of the Year award for the biggest county in the United States. So it was just, this is 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And let me get to the process a little bit.
Yes.
Because you you go to the website and you order all of these things, these delicious things. I mean, it's quite extraordinary. And then that order comes in, and you, as I understand it, these are small batch baked to order items that then go out.
Yes, everything is made by hand from scratch in small batches and made to order. So it can take 4 to 7 business days to process the order, but as soon as it's done, it ships overnight, or you get it within 48 hours. And we use all the best ingredients. We use real eggs, real sugar, real butter, unbleached flour, and these are all locally sourced within our community. And we also have some really special inclusions, which are Madagascar vanilla. We have imported chocolate. which is imported from Belgium, France, and Italy. So it's really high quality, and you can really taste the difference between our desserts and
I'm
others.
showing the layered cupcakes. This is just part of the website. It's a sliver of it. But
Yes.
the layered cupcakes are such an interesting idea. And it's honestly, I mean, I could crawl inside these containers and eat my way out. It's so incredibly delicious. Explain to me the layered cupcake idea, because there's frosting and cupcake and on top of other frosting and other cupcake.
Absolutely. So, basically, in 2020, really quick, the pandemic happened, and the way people were purchasing items, going into establishments, as you know, completely changed. No one was really going to establishments. So in 2025, we thought we would rebrand the company, evolve it, and make an e-commerce online bake shop. And to do that, we had to make all of our desserts shippable. So we decided, because we were a cupcake company and that's what we're known for, we decided we would make something that was shippable and that wouldn't mess up. So we decided to make layered cakes, which were inspired by our cupcake flavors. So that's where you're going to get this beautiful packaging, which looks like, you can put it in the freezer like a pint of ice cream. You can eat it like a pint of ice cream. You can take a couple of bites, put it back, and come back to it. But we wanted to make it where, you would get it in perfect condition.
It's really special. It's genius. And it is absolutely delicious. Well,
it's also taking a couple of bites and putting it down is
hard.
It's hard. Like, that's wishful thinking.
I find myself kind of swinging through the kitchen but it is true. I try to do just what Christy's talking about, which is just take a couple of bites and put it back. But man, that magic lingers in your mouth and you're going, oh man, I just want another hit.
So good. And I love a great packaging, and it's so nice because it comes to the house really easily. And then you can also gift it too. It's very easy to share it. Yeah.
I really am amazed at how you made this transition into e-commerce. And it's interesting to hear just in your origin story how, you made that pivot because it seemed like the smart thing to do, but then you had to create a way in which this stuff could be produced. You wouldn't lose any quality. And also it would arrive with the, intact, I guess might be the way to put it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, we were just really excited about that. We didn't know how we were going to do it, but we knew we wanted to do it. And we spent many, 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 many months on creating that. And we thought this was really the best way that you can get your cupcakes and they stay in perfect condition.
Yeah.
What's that?
Mark, there's baking mixes as well. So I can try.
They'll
but I'll
sell
never.
you the
it's
mix
aspirational.
as well.
We'll sell you the mixes. So if you can't, can't order in time and you have a sweet tooth craving, those baking mixes, which are so popular, they're always sold out. So we're getting them back in rotation. But if you have a sweet tooth and you don't have time to wait, those baking mixes are so perfect. They're so perfect to whip up, even for kids, birthdays or school events. They're so quick to bake up really fast, and you'll have those right on hand for you.
Well, Valentine's Day is coming, and there is, and as again, Christy and Sweet 106 Bakery, our newest partner, and there is a discount code, Mark T at checkout. You'll get 15% off, sweet106bakery.com. They're Valentine's Day bundles. You've kind of created these ready-to-go bundles for Valentine's Day, which has always been a holiday that's been informed by some kind of a little dollop of sweet,
Yes, absolutely. We created these limited special seasonal flavors. We have a layered cupcake Valentine's bundle, and it has 4 16-ounce, which is a pint of layered cupcake cakes. And the first one we have here is Christy Southern Red Velvet, which is layered with a red cocoa buttermilk cake. And in between, we have a vanilla bean Madagascar cream cheese frosting, and then it's topped with more red velvet crumbles, which is my personal favorite. And it's not only because it's named after me, but but because it is our most popular flavor amongst all of our customers. And it's got a great balance of richness and a slight too sweet. So if you don't, like too sweet, this is a perfect bundle to get. And so next we have our Black Forest, which is it's a classic flavor. It's layered with dark Belgian chocolate cake. It's really rich. It has that tart Morello cherry filling, and then it has another layer of Madagascar vanilla buttercream, and then it's topped with dark chocolate and milk chocolate shavings. So it's you get that classic taste that you've always known from that Black Forest. You got the tart, the richness, and a bit of sweet. So if you like that, this bundle is really, really good. And next we have, which has been in our bakery for many, many years, is a Strawberry Heaven. So it is made with a strawberry cake with real strawberries infused in the cake. And each layer has a strawberry buttercream. And it's when you open it up, it smells so fragrant. It's so delicious. You just want to eat it all up right then and there. But it's soft, it's delicious, it's light. It is really, really yummy.
I love that you mentioned the smell, because it's true. When you open that top, oh my God, it's just like
you can smell it through the container. It's so fragrant. And then in our Valentine's layered cupcake bundle, our last one is the circus animal cookie. Now, this is a nostalgic flavor. We've gotten so many requests from our customers to do a cake like this. And so we decided to do that in the Valentine's bundle. And this is a vanilla light buttery buttermilk vanilla cake, and it's layered with real circus animal cookies, circus animal frosting, and then it's topped with a white chocolate ganache, more frosting, more crushed circus animal cookies, and it is really a nostalgia. Oh my God. Feel like your childhood all over again. It's so delicious.
What a brilliant idea too. I just think but you could have the idea and it's still in the execution.
Yeah.
I have to just say, I don't know. Yeah.
I'm excited for all of them. And the red velvet was part of Cupcake Wars, right?
It was the one that made them fall out of their chair. this was our winning cake. This was our winning cake. They had this. We had a French pastry chef, Florent Bellanger, and when he tasted this, he literally, you didn't see it on camera, but he literally got out of his chair and came down and hugged me.
How exciting, because you're up against other champions. And when you went back the second time, you're up against other champs.
Yes, so like at least 50. So we won the champion.
I'm so proud that you've chosen us as your partnership, and we can help get the word out to our viewers and listeners.
Yes.
They're great supporters of our partners, and you just pay it off with this magnificent, transcendentally great product. So again, Sweet 106 Bakery, and here's the discount code that Christy has given us for our listeners and viewers: Mark T at checkout for 15% off. Again, Mark T for 15% off. Sweet106bakery.com. It's sweet, S-U-I-T-E, sweet106bakery.com. Mark T at checkout. I love your story. It's just a wonderful story, and it seems to have this wonderful momentum to it, and we're so proud to be part of that momentum. So, Christy, again, thank you for joining us, and here's to the future.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so excited about this partnership. And the Mark Thompson Show community has been so supportive of us. We truly appreciate every single one of you. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
Love hearing that. Thank you, Courtney. Thank you, Christy.
Thank you, Courtney. Thank you, Mark.
Right on.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I told you you'd love her. I told you you'd love her. She is great. What a great origin story. And for those of you who, again, who had questions, it's all there on the website. Now, this stuff is not vegan or gluten-free, but they do have stuff that is gluten. In other words, within their universe, you can find it on the website. There is stuff if you're vegan or you're gluten sensitive, you can find vegan and gluten-free stuff there. But the general stuff is not. But it's made with all those natural and organic ingredients. It's just quite special. I'm quickly going to, I've got David Cay Johnston who just arrived, and I'll get to him in just a minute. I want to get to your comments.
And now, your comments.
On Epstein. If Epstein was an asset, they didn't protect their asset very well. Interesting. clearly Epstein was an asset, I think. The question is, in what ways was he an asset to what entities? Now, it would be, I think, on some level defendable, the argument somehow that he was both connected to Mossad and also connected to Russia. Clear. I mean, if you look at the number of times that Putin is mentioned, as I mentioned, almost 1,100 times, and Moscow is mentioned 10,000 times in the files. There and there's all of this trafficking out of Eastern Europe. I just think it really strains credulity that there could not be some kind of connection there. So look, you want to talk about a Russian asset? We can talk. David Cay Johnston can tell you, that Putin's connection to Trump is something that should, raise significant questions. But we'll get to that in the next couple of minutes. Epstein is still alive, says the last angry man. Okay, he was removed from jail. Well, I mean, I love a good narrative, so there you go. Sean, is that? I can't quite see. Sean M. Isaac.
McIsaac. Sean McIsaac.
Sean McIsaac. The file contains multiple allegations that Cheeto is a serial. Yeah. Where's the follow-up? Where is Jake Tapper's book? I mean, really, it does turn to the media, and it turns to largely independent media to talk about what you're talking about, because you're not going to get any conversation around that from a Justice Department that's filled with Trump functionaries, right? So finally, logical that blackmail was the point. Epstein videotaped, and who knows who's doing.
Who knows who doing who knows what?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he had videotape, he had pictures, he had clearly blackmail was part of it. The strawberry was out of this world. Oh, this is in relation to the Sweet 106 Bakery. Wes in Florida says the $5 super chat. Thank you. The strawberry was out of this world, saving the others for a special occasion. Yeah, it's all out of this world. You'll love it. Get it. Support our partners, and you'll be glad you did. It'll be one of those things you go, oh, I get. It's like finding God when you have your first spoonful. Please don't spare us the rod of equity and mercy, says Richard Delamater. You're right, Richard. I'll get to it maybe in the second hour. It's been a minute since we've had the rod of equity and mercy. So I promise you I'll uncork it at some point this week. So thank you for your comments. We'll continue. There is a flash poll up quickly.
It's on Mark Thompson Show.
It's
flash
about
poll.
The Epstein files. Was Epstein a kingpin or someone's asset? Intelligence agencies, 21%. Elite blackmail ring, 48%. Foreign interest, 20%. He acted solo, 11%. I think elite blackmail ring, for me, with foreign interests, more than just a dab of foreign interests and intelligence agencies. Again, a lot of it's wrapped up. I think they're all in one response. So,
the Mark Thompson Show.
This man is a Pulitzer Prize winner, public intellectual, brilliant, best-selling author, knows Trump better than anybody on earth, has been reporting on him for decades. A brilliant guy who started DCReport.org. He's a co-founder. Now he's a professor at RIT. So generous to join us on Tuesdays, the great David Cay Johnston.
Hello, David. Mark.
So good to have you here. I'm going to get to Epstein, I promise, but I want to start with the Fulton County raid. It's just full of the most extraordinary abomination when it comes to lawlessness and when it comes to government power being lawlessly plied in this instance. And I'm just wondering what your take is on Fulton County.
I think it's part of an emerging pattern that, frankly, I haven't seen anyone report on so far. Tulsi Gabbard, Trump's utterly unqualified director of national intelligence. She's the one who's supposed to coordinate, oversee, and manage our 17 intelligence agencies. She was there in person. This is completely outside the scope of any DNI's work, as several former DNIs have said. That means Trump is looking at this as a matter of national security. The arrest of Don Lemon and Georgia Fort, this is over the two of them as journalists following protesters into a church. A stupid tactic, we can all agree, but nothing more under the law than public, creating disorder. It's a misdemeanor. It's not a felony.
And again, because the
But
preacher of
Trump-
that church was an ICE-connected guy. That's the reason for the...
Yes, he was
Go ahead.
apparently the field office manager in Minneapolis and one of the pastors at that church. The Trump administration is casting this as a matter of national security. There is a letter written by Judge Schultz, the chief federal judge in Minnesota, who was appointed by George W. Bush, regarding the refusal of a magistrate to issue 8 arrest warrants. He only issued 3. And Pam Bondi has contacted him, or one of her minions contacted him. And in essence, the judge was told, you must order the arrest of all 8 of these people, not 5, because this is a matter of national security. Now, these are not matters of national security, but listen to what Trump elsewhere talks about things and says they're matters of national security. He is trying to lay a foundation and create examples, because once you make something a matter of national security, you get to withhold exculpatory materials from people. You get to have court hearings with the doors closed. You get broader authority to issue either wiretaps or actual listening in on phone conversations. And I think that's the direction that we're now seeing this go, is we're going to treat everything that questions what Donald Trump does as a matter of national security. You listen to some of the cell phone video of Trump's goons from ICE, and they tell you, don't you question me. There's even one of somebody who says, if you disrespect me, I will erase you. And he repeats it. So that's my concern here. I think we're headed in a legal direction that's very troubling, and I am not at all confident about how the U.S. Supreme Court will handle this, or any court, because courts grant enormous discretion to any president the minute you say national security.
Sure. It makes total sense. And as you say, you can just then throw out all the kind of judicial playbooks after that, because they can just do a lot. That's a great sort of jetliner view of what might be a broader plan. And, I've talked about labeling people domestic terrorists and how that's not just rhetoric. That is a separate classification under the law.
Right. Well, it brings in, again, national security. So, I think that's going to be their whole ballgame here. The elections. We held elections during the Civil War. We will hold elections next year, but that doesn't mean that they'll be fair and honest elections. For about 50 years, the Republican Party was under a court order that they could not make phone calls and threatening statements to people. If you show up to vote, you will be arrested. And they did this largely in Black communities. A judge finally lifted the order. Lo and behold, immediately, almost the very day that happened, and it was a number of years ago, phone calls like that started up again. Do not be surprised if ICE agents show up saying they're looking for domestic terrorists and illegals at the polling places and questioning people who are arriving to vote, and doing so with a gun on their hips and maybe one drawn and pointed at people.
It's just so much of a kind, ways in which, as you've suggested, you can sort of muddy the election, get into a kind of voter suppression, cloud the outcome. If you truly get an outcome that you're not happy with, the deniability associated with their general dance of denial, it seems to work. What it does is it delays things at minimum, right, David?
Well, if you go to vote and you're told you're not on the voter rolls, you can cast what's called a provisional ballot, and they can go before a judge. You can overwhelm the system. Instead of a handful of these in a county, you could have hundreds of them. And the courts are not going to keep the polls open very long. We have had cases, famously in 1972 in San Francisco, where there were people standing in line at 8 o'clock when the polls closed, all the way down the block, because they had problems with the old mechanical voting machines. And a judge issued an order stopping the release of vote results. Only San Mateo County had released theirs. I was covering the election in San Mateo County that night. And they kept the polls open until everybody in line had had a chance to vote.
Sure.
But what if they create a mess where everybody wouldn't be able to vote till the next day? We don't have do-overs. That's not how our elections work. So I think people should be very concerned about that. You should not be intimidated about this. And frankly, you shouldn't hesitate to call your local police and say, there are armed men here who are threatening people who want to vote.
I want to get, first I have this question that comes in as a comment. Then I want to play for you something from Fulton County, and then I want to get your comments. But here's the question part. Randy says, so what's the plan with the Fulton County, Georgia ballots now that the FBI has their hands on them? And is the chain of custody now broken regarding these ballots? Now, here is included in this next clip the answer to that question, and then I want David's thoughts. Go ahead, Tony, with the Fulton County Commissioner.
Hey, everybody, it's Commissioner Mo Ivory, and I wanted to give you an update on the Fulton County raid. I want to make sure that you have the most accurate information from the inside of Fulton County. What did they take? About 650 to 700 boxes of 2020 election materials. That includes ballots, but also results tapes, recap sheets, and other official documents. Some of those boxes also contain absentee ballot envelopes, which have voters' names and addresses on them. While the office does have digital files of the ballots themselves, they do not have saved copies of everything that was taken, especially those absentee ballot envelopes and results tapes. So when people say it was all saved somewhere, that's not accurate. Some of this existed only in physical form, and that matters. Why does it matter? It matters because there was already a court-approved review process scheduled. A judge was set to decide how these materials would be reviewed under supervision on March 9th, with strict rules to protect the chain of custody and tampering or false claims later. By taking the materials before that hearing, the process has lost court oversight. Once documents leave secure monitoring, election officials cannot guarantee their integrity, even if they are returned. This isn't about secrecy. It's about doing this the right way so that the facts stay the facts. Why didn't we just stop them? Because we were told that there was an FBI warrant. When law enforcement presents a warrant, officials are legally required to comply. Interfering could be considered obstruction of justice. And you know what's after that. What people should know is that a review of this was already working its way through the court. The seizure didn't create transparency. It jumped ahead of the legal process that was designed to protect voter information, evidence, and public trust. So that's an update. What are we doing now? We are exercising every legal option that we have. And you should be hearing about that very, very soon, like today. I am not going to disclose until it's a proper case in the courts, but believe me, we are fighting back in Fulton County.
So David, that is you can, the passion, the emotion, but also the facts on the ground from Fulton County.
Well, I would correct one thing she said. The FBI has custody of these. So there's a chain of custody that hasn't been broken if there's to be some kind of prosecution. The problem is we can't trust the FBI on this issue.
The problem is who's running the FBI.
That's the problem. Tampering with evidence is a crime, but do I think that Kash Patel will fire anybody who tampers with that evidence? Oh, please give me a break. And now we're going to see something about the nature of the judiciary. This was stomping on the judiciary. It's a state level court that we're talking about here. But are we going to see some action in response to this? And on its face, there is nothing wrong with what was done here. We all know what they're trying to do. But in terms of legal procedure, they followed the rules. Just like a lot of people are being arrested who were, seeking asylum and followed the rules and showed up for their hearings. They're following the rules. It's what they can do now that they have possession of these documents. I'll be very surprised, by the way, if they find any significant problems since these ballots were gone through at least twice.
Sure.
In every election official will tell you there is no perfect election. Maybe if there are 16 voters. But there's no perfect election, but we're talking about the numbers needed to change things. And then in Fulton County, that would be 11,000 ballots in round numbers.
I get that. By the way, David, I get that nothing illegal is associated with the FBI going in. They had a warrant, et cetera. But, they got that warrant in Missouri. I mean, that's the one thing that it strikes me as a bit out of the ordinary. There was no local judge that was going to give him that warrant.
Yeah, because the local U.S. attorney told him, no, he's not going to participate in this, and Trump can fire him, and he can fire every U.S. attorney. Each of the 90, I think it's 92 districts in the country has a U.S. attorney. The rest of the attorneys are civil servants. There's just one political appointee. And Trump can fire the local political appointee any day of the week if they say, no, I'm not going to do that, Mr. President. But the fact that they had to go to Missouri to get this raises another question. The Dominion voter systems, the one that was accused of all sorts of corruption by Rudy Giuliani and Laura Loomer and a whole host of Trump people, and which got the $787 million payout from Fox News. It's now owned by a company in Missouri, and apparently they're going to be consultants on reviewing the voting materials. It's very troubling that we have software companies controlled by allies of one party involved in elections. There's nothing wrong with using voting software per se, but it should be very troubling. And it would be good if the people at Computer Sciences for Social Responsibility at Princeton, if it still exists, would come back and weigh in on this. They hired my wife in 1990, I think it was, to take their very technical report and turn it into plain English to explain how you can manipulate voting. And the courts in at least 2 jurisdictions in America have held that if you use what's called spaghetti code rather than code anybody who's a programmer can figure out, your right as a company to the confidentiality of your spaghetti code trumps the right of voters to be able to audit the election results from the software. And those are the only 2 precedents I know of that we have. And it's very troubling to think about that. Election integrity has been a long time bugaboo of Trump and Trumpers with no evidence. They're the ones we need to worry about. This is projection by them.
Well, on that point, I mean, here, I think there's something to this. Randy says, I disagree that Trump is going to come back and indicate that there are 11,780 votes that Trump needed, and they've miraculously been found when they went through the information. And just to what you said, David,
I think he will, but if it's scrutinized, Mark, it's not going to hold up. I agree with you. I think Donald's going to come back and say, we have absolute proof that they rigged the election. I won 90% of the votes, whatever nonsense thing he wants to say.
Sure.
But then if you say, show us the ballots,
right?
No.
Yeah. So now I want to pivot. And again, I promise I'll get to Epstein, everybody, but I want to pivot to the general corruption that seems to be cranked up to 11 with this Trump administration. Trump himself now suing for $10 billion for the leaking of his tax returns. And I think the leaking of tax returns is a significant thing. I mean, that's why I was so troubled by...
The guy's in jail. The guy who did it is
doing 5
time.
years. Exactly.
We resolved this.
Right. The damages, as Trump always is focused on, he feels hit the $10 billion mark. The first go round, as you know, was $230 million for the grievances associated with being sued during the time that he was, off as president. That was the documents case. That was all the other stuff. So, speak to this: the $10 billion. It's a shakedown.
It's just a way for Trump to use his power as president to enrich himself and tell everybody else, to go to hell. The blatant nature of the corruption and the absolute refusal of Republican leaders to speak out against this, that's going to be very long-term damage to the Republican Party. Integrity matters. Honesty matters. This allowing Trump to thumb his nose at the law with no oversight by Congress. If anything, you look at Representative Comer of Kentucky, he wants to create the appearance of investigating when what he really wants to do is cover up. So this is really troubling. It is the thing I completely got wrong. I had just couldn't imagine 10 years ago the leadership of the Republican Party would give up their perquisites, their authority, their self-respect, their institutional respect. John Stewart did a very funny routine the other day where he, said, I wasn't surprised, you Republicans, that you've trashed the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the 10th Amendment, the 14th Amendment, but the Second Amendment? and it is just appalling to see the lack of character. But then again, we've elected numerous members to Congress on the Republican side who have displayed their utter ignorance of history, of black letter law, and most especially science. And there's some of these guys running around saying, well, science is another religion. No, that's not even the right ballpark. You don't know what you're talking about. And if we keep electing people like that, we're going to continue to get results like this.
Agolf says that he wants to settle at $5 billion. I think he is looking for a settlement. It's all, if he gets a couple $1 billion out of the government, it's a winning negotiation.
Well, also, what's the damages? In order to collect, if you were to go to trial, you have to establish you were damaged. So let's see.
Sure. Documents
were leaked. Donald Trump is in the White House. Donald Trump has made several $1 billion in the last 12 months. Where are the damages? Years ago, Mark, back in that era that I talked about a minute ago, my wife also investigated, at my request, Mike Milken, the financier who went to prison. Mike Milken's transactions involving his charitable foundation. And she came to me and she said, well, this guy has done, I forget the number, but I think it was 200 acts of self-dealing, using the foundation money for business deals. And I said, my God, that's an incredible scandal. And she said, well, he made money for the foundation. He made a tremendous amount of money. He didn't lose any. And I went, yeah, it's going to be kind of hard to say. You did self-dealing that enriched the foundation, even if it enriched you, as a practical matter, not as a legal matter. Sure. And it's always one of the things I've always taught my law students is, if you commit a crime, but it benefits other people and things don't go south, is any prosecutor going to go after you? No.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned this because I always thought baked in, based on a lot of the stuff that I've read from you and just stuff that we know about Trump, that, he's completely corrupt and he'll find ways to enrich himself during the presidency. And my view was, again, that was baked in. But if he were doing anything that would, forward the interests of the nation legitimately to actually help those who need help, if he could have browbeaten pharmaceutical companies sufficiently or whatever, whatever reforms he might have been able just by force of personality to bring in, it might have just been, okay, that's just the price you pay. But I think, frankly, the administration has just been all about self-enrichment and, to be damned, the actual governance.
Oh, yeah. Donald doesn't care about any of the rest of this. He cares about his power, his influence, and you will respect him or we'll erase you. Even Trump's claims, to settle wars that never happened. All of this goes to what a number now of psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers, and cognitive researchers have all said is his frontal lobe dementia. And, as long as the Republicans are unwilling to act, we're going to have to live with having a literally crazy person. And I don't mean crazy the way I've always known Donald to be crazy and all the people around him. I've spent this week a number of hours on the phone with people who I know and have worked for Donald as consultants, advisors, executives. And we were all talking about how crazy he was then and how completely crazy he is now. And most of these guys are Republicans and they are just appalled at their own party. A few of them, because of their positions, have direct access to senators and Congress members. And they tell me that they won't do anything. They are afraid.
Yeah. I think that there is a real, I said this to Sarah Kendzior yesterday, I think there's a real threat of, because she's saying, kind of the same thing, like, why doesn't somebody on the GOP side, they are cowed because they are afraid of physical violence to themselves and their families.
Yes, also physical violence as well as being voted out. And Sarah, who was a journalist before she became a scholar of authoritarianism, she really knows her stuff. She's very deeply schooled in this stuff, as much as almost Timothy Snyder, the professor who left Yale for the University of Toronto.
Agreed. I played for David the John Thune thing or was it John Thune that I have, or that's on the nationalization. This is Chuck Schumer talking about nationalizing, the election, David, that he's talking about. I'd rather just hear from you on that than Chuck Schumer, who just says this is an
states
outrage.
control their election unless Congress passes a law to the contrary.
So it's just chatter then, is what you think.
Yeah, one of the things that ensures the integrity of elections is, in fact, that there are all sorts of different jurisdictions. They have different rules. There's boards of elections in every county or other jurisdiction. There's huge safeguards in terms of poll watchers. That doesn't mean there isn't a sheriff somewhere who can't take a box of ballots and do something with them. And I've written about ways to reduce that rather uncommon problem these days. But yeah, Donald Trump gets control of the national elections. He will win a third term, and he will win it with 90% of the vote.
That wouldn't be at all suspicious, 90% of the, all right,
happens all around the world all the time. I got a few dictators I'll be glad to introduce you to.
That's what I always talk about when people say, well, he's going to cancel the election. I go, no. They have elections in authoritarian regimes all the time. Yeah. That's right. Kind of the deal. Quickly, the deals he's making with India, this is like, again.
Yeah. I've done 3 different Indian news stations in the last 24 hours about Trump's new tariff deal. So before Trump returned to office, our tariffs on Indian goods brought to the U.S. averaged about 2.5%. A lot of things were less than 0.5%. Trump raised them to 50%. Everybody who has to pay that when they bring a good in from India, and we don't buy that much from India, I think it's number 12 among our trading partners, they pay it and they file for a refund. Trump gets on the phone with Modi, the Prime Minister of India, yesterday and says, I'm going to lower your tariffs to 18%. And of course, the Indian news is all, oh, this is wonderful. It's only going to be 18%. And I go on and say, well, 3 things. One, it used to be 2.5%. So I don't know why you're quite so happy. 2, there isn't even a signed document. This is a phone call. And Trump and Modi are already disagreeing about what they agreed to.
Oh, man.
And if the U.S. Supreme Court does what it should, Congress alone has the power to impose tariffs. This is all nonsense. And what you're seeing the Chief Justice John Roberts do is just delay a decision on this, because I don't see any way the Supreme Court can allow Trump to basically erase the very first clause in the empowerment section of the Congress, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1. The Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, and imposts. Tariffs fall right in that. But
we're still waiting on that decision, right, David?
Yes, it's a significant development, however, for one different reason, and that is Trump says Modi agreed that India would no longer buy Russian oil. There's a refinery, it may be the largest in the world on the west coast of India, that refines Russian oil, and it sells diesel from that oil to Ukraine. And wow. Why would he agree to stop the flow of oil to this enormously profitable and successful private enterprise on the West Coast? I mean, I'm doubtful that Modi said what Trump says he says. He may have said something to Trump missed the nuances about, but we'll see if and by the way, the Russians are selling oil below the world price, significantly below it, to India. So this has been a huge subsidy to India, benefit to get cheap oil.
He's doing a lot on the international stage that's done in that kind of way that you're talking about, which is sort of like, just vibing it out, a conversation about whatever.
And nobody else in the room and nobody on the phone in some cases.
Now, the Iranians are saying they'll talk to Trump. They're trying to get out of this situation that clearly would seem to suggest that there is some kind of armed conflict imminent. You have a thought about that?
Yeah, there are roughly 1 million trained soldiers, not all of them on active duty in Iran. They have a formidable military. Trump has sent a small number of ships, including an aircraft carrier, but not an entire flotilla for an aircraft carrier. Might there be some aerial bombardments, drones, missile strikes? Sure. He doesn't have the soldiers there or the necessary equipment to land people for a land invasion of Iran. And the Iranian regime is clearly unstable. The Shah, we overthrew Mossadegh in the early 50s, put in the Shah, who ran his own terror operation as a dictator, as all dictators eventually do. The Khomeini forces came to power in 1979. The average age of Iranians is in the low 30s. I think it's 32, might be 34. What does that mean? Well, 1979, you'd have to be at least 12 years old to have any knowledge of the Shah, any. And that means you're now in your 60s, 70s, and 80s. You're a small slice of the Iranian population. And young people in Iran, they've had it with living in the 9th century. They want to live in the modern world. And according to the Iranian government itself, something like 5,000 to 7,000 people were killed in the demonstrations. They've pulled back for the moment, but I don't think the Tehran regime is at all stable. And you can be sure that Washington and Tel Aviv or Jerusalem are doing everything they can to destabilize that regime. That doesn't mean we'll get a better regime, by the way. It just means we'd be rid of the Ayatollahs who read their stuff. I mean, they literally, they don't want to go back to the beginning of Islam. They want to go to the 9th century, which is a crucial time period in the development of Islam.
It doesn't feel like that regime is long for this place, but there could be a lot of bloodshed between now and the
end. And they might manage to hang on by being especially brutal. We'll see. But
exactly.
But Trump's really, I think the people around Trump who know what they're doing are really trying to say, we don't want to get in any land combat. Trump supporters do not want him to do that, but we want to do whatever we can to pressure Tehran and Qom, I mispronounced that, the religious city.
Now to Epstein quickly, David Cay Johnston, what's the takeaway for you?
Well, every day we're learning new and more troubling stuff, and I wouldn't be quite so critical of the major mainstream news media. It takes time to go through this stuff. There are 3 million pages. You're going to see some unbelievably brilliant analysis of this soon in the New York Times. Unlike every other newspaper, literally every other newspaper in America that's been slashing staff, my local paper has lost 90% of its newsroom. When I left the Times, it had 1,300 journalists, and now it has 3,000 journalists and lots of experts on going through stuff. But there are some things that have come out that I think are quite fascinating. There are, as you mentioned earlier, all the references to Putin and to Moscow. And certainly Russian intelligence, which is very good, is figured out who this guy was and was spying on him and gathering information about him for their benefit at many levels, including business deals. Second, there are these repeated references to, excuse me,
Bless you, sir.
Pizza and grape juice. That's pretty clearly code for something, and my suspicion is 13-year-old girls. Pizza and grape juice. And how tantalizing that we had Pizzagate, the allegation that Comet Pizza in D.C. had these child-raping Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton in the basement when it's a building with no basement where lots of families go and they're happy. But
by the way, do you think that was a coincidence, or was that a spillover from some kind of?
I don't know. I don't know the timing of exactly when those terms came out. I hope somebody will do the work to do that story, because I don't have time to do that one. But there have been a couple of people who quickly glommed onto how often that phrase appears. There are these Epstein emails to himself where he makes observations about Trump. Now, there is one thing floating around. Two things floating around I would caution people about. I got in my Facebook feed 2 images, Donald with a girl of about 13 in a bikini, or at least a 2-piece swimsuit, and a second image. And people are saying, oh my goodness, there it is. Well, first of all, Donald, even when I first met him in 1988, he never had the physique in that picture. He wasn't muscular and trim. Secondly, if you look carefully, you'll notice that the arm of the girl in the 2-piece suit is extended and not real. And in fact, I showed this to my daughter, who has an MFA in photography. And as in Malcolm Gladwell's book, Blink. I said,
Sure.
what do you think? And she went like that. She said, oh, it's a fraud. And she began pointing to things in the picture that it's AI. So be very careful. If things sound too good out of the Epstein files, they're probably not to be believed. Similarly, there's apparently some fake memos and maybe a faked FBI 302. 302s are the basic report field agents file of the work they did, the interviews they did. And so, but this is going to take some time, and it's going to take time not just to go through these things, even with digital tools, but to connect things and see what are the patterns that are in this. And I expect you're going to see a lot of coverage about this over a period of time. And there are going to be a lot of citizen journalists who are going to be helpful. Some of them are going to not be helpful. But keep in mind the most important fact. There are another 3 million documents they're not turning over. And they've indicated why. If you have a picture of a grown man, you or me, with a naked 13-year-old girl, that is by definition child pornography. And their argument is we can't release that. Okay, I'll buy that. I think that's what Congress passed law. Nothing stops them from showing these to members of Congress. Nothing stops them from going to a hearing room and saying, okay, here are all these images. You can't take them out of the room, but here are the unredacted images. They're not going to do that. We also know that they redacted the names of friends of Donald Trump, which the law that Trump signed specifically prohibits. There's to be no withholding to protect reputations. And I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's some politician I've thought is terrific. If you're in there and you were raping 13-year-olds, we need to know about that. And nobody's learned that lesson more than Prince Andrew, the former Prince Andrew.
He seems to be the only one who's really pilloried in all this. I mean, I understand. There's some reputational damage to some other guys along the way, but I mean, like Prince Andrew is the flag that's flying all the time around Epstein, and I'm wondering if it's the hue and cry doesn't just sort of conceal some of the outrage that should be directed to some of these other guys.
It's a way to divert attention over here, but
exactly.
There's a second aspect to this, which is there's an image of Donald where his face is partially blocked out. They shielded him. And yet there are documents in which the girls, some of whom had never gone public, are fully named and identified, emails, full names, etc. And the lawyer for about 200 of the young women, they're estimated now 1,200 rape victims, has said that this is clearly the way it's done, not a mistake. And I agree with him 100%. They selectively went through and, we didn't redact that name because they're sending a signal. You mess with us, we will wreck your life.
Right. Don't start chirping. Otherwise, we'll come after you.
Yeah. And so my hope is two things: that the young women keep their resolve, especially the ones who've already gone public. Secondly, that we get a judge in this case who takes over, appoints a monitor and says, you're violating the law. You can't be trusted. And if that happens, we can tie that back to Fulton County.
Wow. Yeah, there you go. And this is my super last question on Fulton County. Yeah. It's related to Tulsi Gabbard, to whom you referred in our conversation earlier about Fulton County. There's a whistleblower claim that comes out of the Tulsi Gabbard world, and apparently it's been sitting there for months now. So sensitive is this whistleblower claim that they're trying to figure out, at least this is the story, that this conversation to lawmakers, congressional lawmakers, can exist in some way to still respect the kind of national security sensitivities around this whistleblower. So it's at that level that this whistleblower is stepping forward. I wonder if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, and we don't know exactly what the issue is here about this. What we do know is that Tulsi Gabbard is very compromised. She has no business whatsoever being in any position of national security. She should not have a national security clearance, and yet she's the overseer of the intelligence agencies. And we have seen throughout the last year a number of former prominent within the bureaucracy, not people known to the public, national intelligence community, the IC, the intelligence community, say that all sorts of bad stuff is happening here. We know that Donald Trump personally has given away national security secrets that we spent billions of dollars to develop and then protect. And this is a regime that is not loyal to the United States of America. It is loyal to Donald Trump. It's a regime that loves murderous dictators like Putin, MBS, Kim, Xi, and has no regard for the American citizenry. And I do not understand the Republicans who have made fear of the Kremlin an issue since I was in diapers. Their failure to speak up and to speak on behalf of the country. You know, we do live in a dangerous world. There are people who would like to destroy us. There are a lot of people who think the U.S. Is a complete fraud, that we are not for liberty and freedom, we're for oppression. And the record is not black and white. Okay, I mean, we like all peoples want to think well of ourselves, but it's not black and white. But we've been working on getting better over time, and it's gone slower than I'd like, but it's been going in the right direction until tens of millions of Americans decided to put this unqualified, disloyal, draft-dodging, career thief in office. And you know, I just watched a video this morning, Mark, from a guy named Mr. Global. He's a former oil.
Sure, we've had him on the show. Guy. He's really great. Yeah,
he is, and he had a video clip from a TV station of a guy who'd been a soybean farmer for 40 years, saying, "You know, we're not selling any soybeans to China, and I wish somebody would tell me who's responsible." It was like, really? You've been a businessman, because that's what farmers are, for 4 decades, and you can't tell who's no, you can't bring yourself to tell that it's the guy you supported and say you support who is responsible for this. That's part of Trump's genius. It's very hard for people to say, I was conned. I lost all my money in the Nigerian prince email scam. You know, I bought this non-existent stock, whatever it was. It's really hard to say I got taken. And Trump exploits that to the hilt. By the way, remember Trump announced that we're back to selling soybeans to China? No, it's like the phone call with Modi. I don't think what he said has much to do with the reality of that phone call.
Well, he shut down the soybean thing, just to button that out, and they're full on supply chains now that completely go around the U.S. So,
oh yeah, no,
you don't rebuild those. I mean, those are contracts that are signed with other countries. So
yeah, the Canadians, the Brazilians, the Australians, and I suspect the Argentinians, if they aren't in the game, they will be, are all the beneficiaries of this, because Donald doesn't know what he's doing, and people, you need to tell the people around you. Don't get him angry or anything else. Just list the things that haven't happened that he claims. Where are the soybean sales to China? Why are we attacking our friends? What did the Canadians do to us? And, you know, Donald famously said, oh, they're a minor trading partner. Who cares? They're our biggest trading partner. You know, are you better off now than you were a year ago? If your principal income is from a rising stock market, you're a lot better off. That's a small slice of the population. If you're a working person below the executive level, you're worse off. Your prices are going up. Your electricity bills are going up, and they're going to get much worse because we don't have the transmission grid we need. Well, we're having all of this energy going into AI at, by the way, super, super cheap rates. They're not paying the rates you are to light and heat your home and run your dishwasher. They're paying way below that rates, and they're sucking up every bit of it, the juice they can get. So it really is important to engage other people, not by telling them you're stupid or implying it or treating them as if they're stupid, but by just pointing to Trump's record.
I think also when you talk about military flexes that are now very much a part of this administration. You noted earlier that that really wasn't part of the MAGA plan. You know, they're anti-war. Trump's going to get us out of all of this military adventurism that's been part of the American history. And so I think you point to that, and then you point to these thugs on the streets. And I think, you know, you build a pretty good case for the fact that, you know, this guy is trouble. But we have 3 more years.
Diane Cat has a question on the screen just before we go.
What does David think about the Clintons agreeing to testify for before Congress?
Bill and Hillary Clinton have completely mismanaged this issue. They could have turned this into something useful to them and troubling for Trump, and they screwed it up royally. When the Republicans demanded that they testify about stuff that's ancient and is clearly a diversion, I think instead of resisting, they should have said, absolutely, we will gladly testify. We're ready to go tomorrow morning in public. Just put us down in a room and we'll testify right there in public. You want us to sit there for 11 hours? We will, side by side. And instead, they got into these negotiations over, well, what questions will be, and all that, Washington lawyers making their $1,500 an hour fees. They finally said, no, we're not going to do it. And, it took about 2 seconds for people who understand the system to say, if you refuse to do that, they can get you sent to prison for contempt of Congress. And so now they back down. And what are they agreeing to do? To testify behind closed doors. You'd never be able to convict them of contempt of Congress if they said, we will testify, but only in public. And so this is, the Clintons have this history of having advisors who aren't good for them. When I got them to change how they filed their tax returns by the implicit advice in my story about how they did their taxes, it turned out that they turned to a criminal defense lawyer to have their taxes prepared. And no wonder, he completely screwed it up. It's not his field. And again, the Clintons just, they get advice from people, that are not the best advice for them or for the country. So I think it's very unfortunate. They're going to testify. The testimony will eventually become public, just as with Jack Smith. But had Jack Smith spoken in public, you might have had live coverage of it as it happened.
Sure.
And heard some of the damning things he said. And the biggest one of which I think the public has missed is we were confident we could prove to beyond a reasonable doubt, the standard for criminal conviction, that the Trump people and the people around him spent $12.6 million to bring the rioters, the insurrectionists, to Washington. This was all planned by them. It's hardly gotten any mention.
You're right.
And
That's
it is
huge.
the single most damning thing in my view that he said.
The last thing I'll just say on the Clintons, just to parry back a little bit. I don't know. I think you're right about what they've done. They've kind of just tried to make this contempt of Congress thing go away. But I think they didn't want to, I'm guessing, be part of a spectacle with public testimony.
No, I agree. I'm sure that's what they didn't want to do. I mean, Hillary Clinton in particular has lots of bruises and scars.
Yeah,
She tried to get me fired at the New York Times. And I mean, I was told by an editor, your job is on the line here, pal, because of her complaint about that my story was, which hadn't been published, was completely wrong. And it wasn't. It was spot on accurate. And the story ran a year later. So I don't have any reason to say anything nice about Hillary Clinton by any means. And look, these two were smart enough that they got to the White House from a little state, Arkansas.
Sure.
And she won the popular vote 9 years ago. But they just hadn't thought through carefully as they should have. You're supposed to sit down with your strategic advisors and listen to them. And if I'd been in the room, I would have said to them, yeah, you want to take the aggressive position of, sure, we'll go testify, but in public. There's nothing that can't be said in public. And if you think there is, you can stop the proceedings and you and the other party can argue about that. But we'll fly to Washington tomorrow. And instead, they've turned this into a morass. They've created an opportunity to dirty up them and, by extension, everybody who opposes Trump. Be forthright. I had somebody ask me once, why don't you use Signal and other security devices to communicate with people? And I said, well, first of all, if you think the National Security Agency can't get into those devices, you just haven't thought very deeply about this. But secondly, I don't do anything these days that isn't right out in the open. I don't mind telling you what I'm doing. If I have people who talk to me, I don't reveal who they are unless if they don't want to be. But Signal's not going to protect their confidentiality. And there are lots of ways to talk to people that don't require something like Signal, if you know how to do this. The Clintons really badly handled this. Mark, one last thing, I'm sorry, about the national security. There's an indication that they may be seeking, through the national security approach, to be able to surveil people on an ongoing basis, that is, track your phone without getting a court order. If you have a cell phone, you can be tracked everywhere you went, how long you were there. but they need a court order to do it. They're supposed to have one. But apparently there's a court filing that I read that suggests that the Trump administration's position is if they think you're a domestic terrorist or national security threat, they don't need a FISA warrant. They don't need any warrant. They can just track your cell phone and, more concerningly, listen into your conversations, which they would do by recording them in real time. And then you go back if you want to and listen to them. And we have equipment that would allow them to go through and say, find the word Pulitzer and pull every phone call you'd ever made that said Pulitzer and throw everything else to the side. So they're setting up a surveillance state.
It's the Stasi, the primordial ooze of the Stasi state. David, so appreciate a little extra time today with you. Thanks a lot for hanging out.
Talk to you next week, Mark.
Next week. David Cay Johnston, everybody. Thank you, sir.
The Mark Thompson Show.
This is Mark Thompson.
I want to get to Jefferson Graham with some tech stuff in a moment. I do want to thank everybody who is part of our audience. Been so substantial. I will get to Palantir in a second. Somebody mentioned it in the chat. Vilma Devlin with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Vilma. Big shout out. You are an OG of this show, as you know. All I worry about is the fixing of Dominion voting machines in favor of Republicans in the upcoming elections. The power of the vote is all we have. Yeah. I mean, increasingly that's true. I think there are other ways to manipulate the election outcome, and they're all discussed here regularly, denying the demonstrable facts that are associated with the outcome of the election. That seems to be a pretty well-established methodology. The Last Angry Manny says,
Big shout out.
The TV show Two Broke Girls eventually became cupcake entrepreneurs. Is that right? I didn't know that.
What?
Yeah. With our Sweet106bakery.com crew, the very best you can ever taste. You can get our discount code MARKT when you order and get 15% off. I also did want to mention, because I haven't mentioned them yet, our other partner, Zellmans.com. And I was talking to, in fact, we're going to have the creator of Zellmans on tomorrow. If you go to Zellmans.com today, you use the code MARKT there, you get 15% off your first order. And Zellmans, again, it's this remarkable breath. It's not a mint. There's mint on the outside. There is a peppermint. And there is, what's the other one, Kim?
Sesame seed oil.
But spearmint.
Sunflower seed oil.
Parsley seeds.
Yeah, but on the inside, it's parsley seed and sunflower seed.
You're talking about the flavors? Yeah, peppermint and spearmint. On the outside, it's peppermint and spearmint. Okay, on the outside, you swish that around. It kind of gives you that pop in your mouth. But then you swallow the capsule. Don't chew the capsule. Don't get it, because inside the capsule is where the real action is. It's the parsley seed oil and the sunflower seed oil. That stuff neutralizes the things in your stomach that come back up and give you bad breath. The stuff works. We demoed it for a month before we brought them on board. I'll tell you, I'm very specific about our partners and about our sponsors. I'll tell you this between us kids right now. I just demoed something else for a month that I don't think I'm going to bring on as a sponsor. So it's not just words when I say it. I really want you to know we're very impressed with this product. Mm-hmm. The science behind it is this dual action capsule. So go to Zellmans.com, use our code MARKT at checkout, 15% off your first order. You will be happy as we are happy, and we're excited with your happiness because that's happiness times two. Who isn't
our
happy
happiness
with
and your happiness?
Who isn't happy with a minty mouth and fresh breath?
It really does work. It's good for morning breath, too, if you take it before you go to sleep at night, and we've road tested that, and it does work. So check it out, Zellmans.com, MARKT at checkout for 15% off your first order.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I know it's a little late. Don't worry, it's a little late. We've had a lot to do, and we want to do it. We've been talking about the Epstein files. We've been talking about a number of other things. Got a flash poll up. You should check that out if you haven't. Also, if you're listening to this show after hours, that is to say not live, you can still vote in the flash poll because we have another poll up in our community section of our Or is it under posts? I forget. It's community or posts
Community
on our
tab.
YouTube channel. What is it?
It's under the community tab.
Under the community tab. Elon Musk is combining his rocket and AI businesses before an expected IPO this year. That's the big tech news that will be discussed, I'm sure, by Jefferson Graham, who is our tech ninja. How about Jefferson Graham joining us from a car somewhere in this great world? I don't know where you are. I don't want to know. I don't want to.
I'm
be
in the
subpoenaed
parking
later.
lot. I'm in the
Okay.
parking lot of the Good Neighbor restaurant. Mark, do you know where that is?
I think I do. Good Neighbor Restaurant is, I think it's in Studio City.
Universal City.
Universal, yeah, Universal Studio City, same thing, right on the border.
Yes.
Yeah. You know who I
Beautiful-
saw? The Good
beautiful
Neighbor
parking lot.
Restaurant. I saw Tiffany Amber Thiessen there, and she's very. It was about 10 years ago. But
What?
I think she's finished her order. Is my point. I doubt
This
she's
is
still
after
there.
she graduated from Beverly Hills 90210.
She was, I think, 30 years old at the time. So, Jeff, what about this joining of the space exploration part of Musk's world and the artificial intelligence venture into a single company? And this is a massive IPO that will likely be coming out later this year. So, what's behind this? The AI chatbot is Grok, right?
And the fact that he's discontinued 2 Tesla cars.
Mm-hmm.
And is putting the future is all about robotics and AI. And Tesla's like an after effect. So he's combining what he thinks is the future into what will probably be a very popular stock. I'm not a stock picker. What do I know? But I think the bigger news is getting rid of those Tesla cars. After all that, you've got one, right?
I don't anymore. No, I dumped it.
Oh, you
I
did?
dumped it when he pulled the Doge stuff. I dumped my car. But I get that it transformed the electric vehicle market. I mean, before that, before the S vehicle that you're talking about that's been discontinued, the most popular vehicle was the Nissan Leaf, which only had about an 80 at the time, like an 80-mile battery power. And the S came out, and all of a sudden you had 200 miles. And, again, with an approachable number, it was expensive, but it wasn't out of reach completely. And it transformed the market. Now you have these e-vehicles everywhere. So
but how's the electric market doing since Trump took away all the tax breaks, and you're still paying $10,000 to $15,000 more for your car, and then you have to pay for the electricity, which is just as expensive as gas. At least that's what I have found. I don't know if you're driving an electric car now again.
I am driving an electric car, and I'll always drive an electric car if I can. But I would challenge you on the last thing you said. You're telling me that electric power is just as expensive as gas?
Was for me when I borrowed a Rivian to drive from LA to Vegas, and the charging took 20, 30 times longer than it would take for me to put a tank of gas in, and I was spending $50, $60.
Yeah, the long distance stuff that you're talking about, that's a different thing. So you're paying at the pump, at the electric pump, you're paying, I don't know, I'll take you, because you probably did, you might have done a piece on this, I'm sorry I missed it, a comparable number, but it does slow you down. Like they don't have it yet to the point where it's comparable to filling up your tank. I mean, filling up your tank with fuel is just a super efficient, quick way to move on. Whereas you're having to stop down for 40 minutes or maybe a half hour in some cases now with the newer vehicles to really recharge your batteries.
Yeah, but a person like you have an electric car, you have a home, you have it charged every night or whatever, and you drive it around town. That's no problem. It's not going to cost you anything, right?
Exactly right. But this is interesting that that he feels that AI and data centers, just to get back to the merging of the two, he feels that they'll exist in space. Like he feels that this electric draw that has been so much a factor and a variable in setting up these data centers in this country, that is not going to be a factor if we set them up in space where you have 24/7 solar.
He also said that we'll be living on Mars by 2030, I think.
So you don't think that's feasible? Is that your point?
I don't know. I'm sure he knows more about science than I do, but he has made a lot of claims that haven't come true.
Well, I would say this. He might know more science than you or I, but he's totally full of it when he talks about living on Mars. So I assume that when you said that's what you were saying, that he's full of it when it comes to the digital stuff in space. You think he's full of it?
It's a nice pipe. It's a nice pipe dream. Wasn't he trying
pipe dreams means it's bullshit.
Hey, maybe it'll come true, but I think he was saying he was trying to bring people up to Mars. And didn't Bezos just pull back on that as well?
Well, it's ridiculous. There'll be no trip to Mars for 200 years. The radiation alone would kill you. I mean, it's an absolutely absurd plan. So the Mars thing that people keep coming back to, that truly is a pipe dream. But I'm just curious about the digital stuff in space, because those digital centers might be able to live in some kind of orbit and they would have access to solar. You don't think so?
I don't know. Maybe they do. It's an expensive ride to get up there, though, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. The last thing I want to ask you, and then you can tell me about some consumer stuff, but Palantir had huge financial returns that were reported yesterday. They blew past Wall Street expectations. They are propping up the Trump administration's push to deport immigrants. They have, as you know, something of a dragnet when it comes to monitoring people and geo-specific information related to people. So millions of dollars in federal contracts related to ICE and to immigration and even beyond. They reported 66% year-over-year growth in revenue from government contracts to $570 million. Can you speak to Palantir, their success? And they are, as I say, playing a role even in Minnesota with the ICE raids there.
Yeah, I'm not really familiar with the company, but somebody's getting rich off Trump world, and whatever. It sounds like the Halliburton of our
but you're
time,
familiar
right?
with Palantir. They're one of the biggest data collection companies in the world. I mean, I think they came out of Israel, or they certainly had a connection to an Israeli founder. Now somebody check that. I'm not sure, but I read a long piece about them some years ago, and now they've really found a way into government contracts here and around the world. So, but to your point, I mean, if they're beneficiaries of a crew that's ready to shell out government contracts for kind of that deal that they do, I guess that explains the success of their stock. All right. What do you have for us today?
It's Super Bowl Sunday coming up this week. And if you're one of those people who are going out to buy a new TV, like you don't have one, the prices aren't bad. I mean, the prices are pretty dang affordable. So I've been seeing 65, 75, 85 inches in the $400 to $500 range. It's pretty good time. I saw some great stuff at Costco yesterday. Obviously, Best Buy, Target, they all have really good sets. So this is the number one time to buy a TV. And if you don't buy a TV and you go in on Monday, it'll be even cheaper. Right?
Maybe that's the plan. So the big, like you can get, is it the 100? So you've got 80? No, not yet.
65, 75, and 85.
Okay. So the biggest you can get is 85.
At an affordable price. I mean, you can get way bigger. It'll be a lot more expensive.
Yeah.
How big is your set, Mark?
I want to say it's 75, I think.
Okay.
And
I have a 75 also.
The problem is that you put it on a wall that's really big and it doesn't look like 75.
and it looks like a 32-inch TV, right?
I keep saying to Courtney, we need to get chairs that sit closer to the TV. I mean, if we want to watch movies, I just think it's a mistake to sit way back at the back of the room.
Yeah, in a hotel room, I just watch the laptop because I can put it right in front of my eyes.
Exactly. Sometimes I watch my iPad for sports and stuff just because it just, exactly as you say, you can kind of get right up against it. So you'd say if you really can, if you want some value, wait for Monday to roll around.
Yeah, because they go up and then they go way down. And they want to try to get rid of the 2025 models before they get the 2026 models. Lastly, Amazon announced a new app that will help you find your dog. It's a Ring app from the Ring doorbell, and it connects to all the Ring doorbells, and they say it will help you find your dog. Who knows if it's true? But if you got a dog, you might as well download the app, right?
Yeah, they are stitching together the Ring stuff. I know they've been doing that for a while, so it's cool that it's being.
Well, they were stitching it together via the doorbells, but now the app is tapping into the doorbells and tapping into everybody's video.
Oh, I see. Okay. So you when you have the app, you're agreeing to have your stuff added, and you can look at other people's stuff to find your dog.
Yes.
Is that at least ostensibly to find your dog?
Yes.
And that's the story. I was only looking to find my dog. I had one other question for you, and it just escaped. Oh, I know what I wanted to ask you. The new iPhones, they're $1,400. Is that about right?
The new iPhone is $1,500. The 17 Pro Max, yeah.
Yeah. And
starts at.
And what kind of, I need to get a new iPhone, Courtney says.
Yeah.
But do you like the brand new one, or do you
It's
think
the best iPhone I've ever used, and it sounds like a cliche. If I have my choice, there's no other iPhone that I want to shoot photography on. The iPhone 17 Pro. Okay.
But what kind of storage does it have? Just curious. And then I'll
Depends on what you get.
Okay. Well,
it
the
could be
top storage.
256. Top storage is a terabyte, and that is a $1,500 phone.
All right. I'll need to borrow some money from you.
Okay.
Find Jefferson Graham across the YouTube universe with Photo Walks TV. He's our pal. He was with us at the beginning, and he'll be with us to the bitter end. We love talking to him. And thanks for stopping the car for a minute. Go in there, see if you see a celebrity. Go into that place. It's a good
I want
spot.
a grilled cheese sandwich.
Right.
Yeah.
Tony's got the optimal viewing distance for a 65-inch 11 feet away, an 80-inch 13 feet. This is good. This is actually news I can use, Tony. Thank you for that. I'm going to 11 feet is where I want to be for my TV.
That graphic reminds me of the San Francisco Chronicle pink pages. Remember that?
With the little man and the absolutely true. I love
the science is ridiculous.
I don't know. Somebody's questioning your science, Tony. All right, but I never question Tony. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate you, Jefferson Graham. Everybody.
Thanks, Tony.
All right. So long, my friend.
The Mark Thompson Show.
This is Mark Thompson.
Thanks, everybody, for hanging out. Oh, Kim gave me this on Palantir. Thank you. Kim actually Googled.
Google it.
I was sort of giving you what I remembered from an article I read years ago. I read a deep dive on Palantir. Palantir Technologies, founded in 2003, amidst the rising concern over data mining and the proper handling of sensitive information post 9/11. Initially, it was conceived as a search engine for analyzing data related to counterterrorism. The company sought to address the complex challenges associated with national security and intelligence. The founding team, which included notable technologists like Peter Thiel, Alex Karp, Joe Lonsdale, aimed to create a software platform that could synthesize and analyze massive data sets in a way that was both user-friendly and highly effective for analysts. Yeah. So that gives you an idea. Now they've become, I think,
it was interesting that Peter Thiel was involved in
Thiel
all
was
of
there.
that. Yeah. Mhm.
No, I knew it was a Thiel thing, but I was talking about, I thought the creator of Palantir had some kind of connection. Not Big Brother is watching. Exactly. You get the idea. Glenn B knows what's going on. Quickly, I wanted to get to
And
a
now,
couple of comments.
your comments.
Go ahead and throw them up, and we'll get them done. Depressed Canadian says, if only Bill Maher could have, first of all, $20 super chat, so big shout out for that.
Big shout out.
If only Bill Maher could have reached out to Trump more often in his text with him and had a meaningful dialogue, we wouldn't be in this predicament. There isn't enough criticism for fake free speech warriors like Maher. Yeah, that was a weird interaction he had with Trump. I mean, I got what he was trying to do, but I thought it was, troubled. Movie theaters offer you a 65 by 30 foot screen for about $20, says Depressed Canadian with a $10 super chat.
Big shout out.
Depressed Canadian, thanks for all the super chats. That's interesting. 65 by 30. It's 65 feet by 30 feet is a movie theater screen.
So maybe that's a standard size for a movie theater. Yeah.
That's a huge screen, isn't it, Tony? 65 by 30. Wow. I don't know.
Possibly. It's not 65 feet, no.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, that just seems that's too many feet. Senor, it's too many feet.
If Depressed Canadian says it, it must be true.
I mean, especially with a super chat. Jim Slayton says, I'm suing the IRS for $10 billion over the data breach also. If I win, I'm donating $1 billion to your show. Wow, I can't argue with that. Thank you very much, Jim Slayton. It's a $5 super chat.
Big shout out.
Big shout out.
Well, 65 they can get up to.
No.
Oh, there you go. So depressed Canadian.
Question depressed Canadian. He knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
I stand corrected.
Exactly. Right.
IMAX screens are 70 feet.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
there, it depends
So,
on the.
I would
on
say
the
not too
screen.
many are 65. Most theaters, I'm guessing, are more closer to the 45. I'm guessing.
Yeah, those are the little ones in the corner that show the
Yeah,
film that like
in
have three
the
people in the
multiplex.
audience.
Yeah, it's more that way. Right. I agree. Mars has dust storms that cover the entire planet for months. So much for solar power, says Michael Reich. Yeah, I my thing with Mars is manned missions to Mars. Just forget about it. Just read a little bit about it, and you'll realize it's absurd, absolutely absurd. So it doesn't
Google
work.
it.
Yeah, but I get it. He's been dining out on that bullshit, that Elon Musk bullshit, forever. If Mitch McConnell had voted to convict Trump, Trump would be on his golf course instead of in the White House, says Sheila White. Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, I think Mitch McConnell and a couple of others would have had to join, but that's exactly right. I mean, you needed to put together just a small coalition, and they lost their nerve on that. I don't think MAGA is anti-war. I think they're isolationists, says John Watson. Yeah, I get it, but it's part of the Venn diagram overlaps because they come in and they say the war in Ukraine, we shouldn't be there. There's not enough. It's isolationism, but it's really masquerading as kind of anti-militarism and I certainly anti-imperialism. Maybe I'll put it that way. But I take your point. It's kind of interesting. We could talk about it more, but not right now. Isolationism and I'd suggest that kind of anti-war rep that Trump was kind of trying to. I think he was flying that flag during his campaign. I think they're half a click off, depending on who's pitching it. I'm about out of comments, I think. Didn't I? Did I do them? I mean, I can't believe we're through.
What?
Yeah, I got them all
John
done.
Watson asked, I thought this is a good way to end the show. What is the size of the Sphere in Las Vegas?
No, that's a great question.
Found
Yeah.
this. The Sphere is 366 feet tall, 516 feet wide. It's the world's largest spherical structure and can accommodate as many as 20,000 people with standing room.
Wow, that is extraordinary. I love it.
And this is their new hoax.
I don't know. I've seen it. I know it really does exist. So, yeah, that's really, really great. I'm going to take a.
Coachella. Love you, Coachella Valley.
Coachella Valley Coffee should get they should get the concession inside the Sphere that Tony was just showing. It's all organic and ethically sourced from women-owned farms. Check them out, CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Let me say something about CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Were they only ethically sourced from women-owned farms and organic, I would still be excited about them, but I wouldn't talk about them as the greatest coffee on earth. I talk about them as the greatest coffee on earth, not because they're all organic, ethically sourced from women-owned farms, but because it is the best coffee on earth. You must try it. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. And I'm giving you a discount code because they are a boutique roastery. It's not a discount roastery. These are freshly harvested beans that are hand roasted. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. And when you go there, you'll see tea that is magical, spices that are perfect. And you use the discount code MARKT for 10% off the coffee beans if you want them, that are perfect for you. They have tasting notes and tasting profiles alongside everything. They are our longest partners, and we love them. Mark T at checkout, 10% off.
You know
the
how,
most magical coffee and tea.
You know how Trump gets all these random awards, like, just whatever award people want to give him to, do what for whatever reason. I think we should have a Mark Thompson show Golden Award.
Yeah.
For the person or business that makes the world a better place. And I nominate CoachellaValleyCoffee.com to receive the very first Mark Thompson Show Golden Award.
Wow. Listen to this. I gotta
Put that coffee down.
I mean, if anybody can give anybody an award, I'm giving them one.
Yeah. Well, you've really I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I love the idea of some kind of award show. We don't have enough award shows,
Yeah.
Ought to get enough thank you.
Oh,
he's got his own award. They're award winning already. They don't need an award from us. There it is. Cliff Young and Coachella Valley Coffee Outstanding Business Person Award. Thank you.
Look at
That's from the California Legislative Assembly.
Well, it's not a Mark Thompson award. I mean, I can picture a golden award with your head. No.
Well, I like the way you think.
Do you know there's another award?
I'm kind of a big deal. He's got a lot of awards already.
Business Person of the Year. I guess he doesn't need our piddly Mark
you
Thompson
just
show head.
Don't get it, do you?
Yeah, Kim.
You don't.
You just don't get it. What can I tell you?
Maybe it was an off-air idea, Oh, well.
Listen, I love that you're thinking. It's all right. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Coachella. Thank you, everybody. That's our show for today. I know you're curious about the flash poll, so we'll throw it up there again just for you to be able to see it. Most people feeling that Epstein was running an elite blackmail ring. It might have had ties to intelligence agencies. 22% of you said that. 48% said it was an elite blackmail ring, and 20% of you said foreign interests were involved. 10% feels, hey, he acted on his own. That's interesting. Anyway, tomorrow, John Rothman joins. Who else do we have? I believe I have the Economist on tomorrow as well, I think.
Linda Weymouth will be on the show. And
I'm Shepard Stevens for The Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
I believe we have a noted economist with us tomorrow as well.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Till tomorrow. Bye-bye.